Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the 8th Annual Latino Filmmakers Network event at the Sundance Film Festival, presented by Acura. We're excited to be here today with you, and I'm super excited because this is my favorite conversation, our road to the Sundance Film Festival, where we get to talk to some of the filmmakers that have movies at this year's Sundance Film Festival. We get to hear about their films and talk to them about what they have going on, highlight them, celebrate them. So why don't we go around and you guys, you girls, in this case, I'm very happy it's an all Latina panel this time. You girls, you introduce yourselves.
Hey everyone, my name is Gabriella Ortega and I am the writer-director of HUELLA, playing in the shorts program.
All right, Aubrey.
Oh my God, I did like the boomer thing. Right. Hello, I'm Aubrey Plaza, and I have a movie called Emily the Criminal that is premiering today, which I produced and starred in, and I'm very excited for it.
And hi, I'm Dávila, and I'm the writer and executive producer of Emergency, which premiered a couple days ago. It's a feature. I think it has another screening coming up. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Doménica Castro. I'm Constanza Castro, and we are the producer directors on the short animated documentary called We Are Here.
All right, so wonderful having you here, and I'm so excited to talk about your movies. You all are very, very accomplished. Not only do you have these films happening at Sundance, but you have a lot of other great things happening as well. And so we're gonna go one by one here and talk about your films. Let's start off with Gabriella. Hola, Gabriella.
Hola.
So your short film, HUELLA, tell us a little bit about how you came up with this concept and your vision for the film, and also about the fellowship program that it was part of.
Totally. So the film was made because of the Rising Voices Fellowship that Lena Waithe started with Indeed, and actually Constanza and Doménica are EPs in the film as well. So that's how we met and have worked together since. But the seed of the film actually started in 2020, the year everything fell apart, obviously. But I wanted to talk about grief, how I was processing it at the time. It's not just about, to me, about losing people in our lives, but also kind of the parts of ourselves that we lost because of the pandemic and because of just growing up and having to shed things. And I know that happened to me when I moved to the US from Dominican Republic, kind of like putting to rest that life I had there. And that was kind of the seed of the project. And then it sort of evolved into this flamenco dancer with a curse, because I wanted to express grief and how it manifested in the body. And so in that space where like words don't have room, I wanted to use dance to sort of show that emotional journey. And
are you a flamenco dancer by any chance? I was wondering why you chose flamenco particularly.
I have confidently 2 left feet, but but no, this is the thing. If I could like be born again and do something else, I would love to dance. I was an admirer of dance all my life, and I think, yeah, I mean, I have rhythm. I'm not terrible, but when I was very intrigued by flamenco and ballet growing up, because, you know, in Dominican Republic, the boys did baseball, and then the women were supposed to do either ballet or flamenco, because obviously we have a big Spanish influence. But what I found very fascinating about flamenco, as I grew up and I did a couple, I'm also an actor, so I did a couple plays, Federico Garcia Lorca plays that had a bit of that flamenco essence, and I fell in love with it. But what I like about the film is that, sorry, the dance is that it has very masculine and feminine elements at the same time, kind of in contrast. And I think a lot of the women in my family have those things in opposition at all times, and that's something I wanted to channel with the main character of Daniela. And again, I think it's just the perfect chance to express grief because it's so passionate and so strong and just mournful.
And your movie is also visually very artistic. How do you come up with these concepts to tell the story, both written and visually, in the production design part of it all?
Well, I didn't go to film school, so my sort of references are a lot in like the theater world and arts world. And so as a director, I really love having a lot of moving parts that can sort of happen at the same time. Like the visual effects in the film, we did most of them manually, so that was like just fun for me. And because the film is inspired by like real stories in my life, there's like seeds of truth there, so I wanted to bring those like dreamlike elements in a way that wasn't super literal. I love poetry, and I love how like poetry can make you feel something without showing you the exact thing. I just love, showing you the emotion and then showing you an image that's not necessarily what you would expect.
And you created this short film to be part of the Rising Voices Fellowship, which is created in partnership with by Lena Waite's Hillman Grad Productions, but Doménica and Constanza are also executive producers of your film. And that's how I'm going to go to you ladies, who not only are you the executive producers of Gabriella's film HUELLA, but you have another wonderful short film also in the film festival. And tell us a little bit about your film.
Yeah, thank you. So We Are Here is a portrait of what it's like to walk this land in the shoes of an immigrant under 30. Doménica and I are immigrants ourselves, and we wanted to just raise awareness of those people who are marginalized by society and whose freedom is sort of taken and stripped from their humanity and the human experience. And I think we just wanted to shine a light from a very different perspective into a theme that has been part of our lives since we moved to the United States from Mexico City in 23 years ago.
Yeah, I think when I think about our story and sort of where we start our narrative, somehow we always end up talking about, and then we move to the United States, and it's like this sort of epic transition and sort of change of who you were going to be and who now you become. And so for us, the story of immigration is so much central to our identity and the identity of so many others that we know and that we love and that we're friends with, or just even people that, if you cross the street and you sort of recognize yourselves and so in them. And so we wanted to extend this same opportunity for other people to connect to their stories, and create a much more holistic approach into the conversation of immigration. And so we played with animation. The short is an animated piece. It's a documentary piece, and it's not traditional animation. Our animator is actually a painter. She's a visual artist. She does watercolors, but she has this like very sublime way of making her images sort of come to life even when they're not in motion. And we saw a music video that she made. We found her on Instagram, and we saw the music video, and we were so captivated by what her art with animation could do. And we just connected. She loved the project, and we turned it into this sort of like almost experimental sort of art piece that moves.
Yeah, it's really touching and it's beautiful. And I was telling Constanza, it's kind of like you watch it and you're kind of also like relaxed at the same time, you know. You're taking everything in, but it's also very relaxing. It's a beautiful thing you both put together with that. And this is your directorial debut, right?
Yes, it's the first time
Because you girls are used to producing. You're producers.
Yes, we've been producing for many, many years. So this is the first time we use our voice in a way that we hope can evoke emotion and change and empathy. Yeah.
But we also had so much fun producing Gabi's film HUELLA, and we love that project so much, and it's such an honor to sit next to her because she's a director that we love and admire so much, and who we've seen work firsthand. So please also watch HUELLA. It's incredible.
I've also really enjoyed the support that I've seen in this group, you know, throughout the run of us talking about the films and promoting them, which is something that's very important. And that, of course, oh, we have April coming in the room as well, our other filmmaker. Yay. It's very important, you know, as that we support one another, right? And that we help empower each other and uplift each other, not only to tell our stories, but to tell other people about it. Let's go to KD. So KD, she actually spoke on our panel in 2018 because she has a movie right now at the Sundance Film Festival that premiered opening night at Sundance, Emergency, which was actually a short film prior in 2018. It premiered as a short film. Then you guys made it into a feature film. Was that always the idea, KD? Did you always want to make it into a feature? What happened there? And KD's the writer of the film.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, KD.
Yeah, so back in 2018, we brought it to Sundance. We had Emergency, the short film, was always just originally intended to be a standalone film. You know, wanted to write something that was simple and set in one location, and you know, something that would have a beginning, middle, and end. Did not intend to have to adapt it or anything. And then Carrie, who's the director, and we were, you know, pleasantly surprised. We took it around to festivals and it kept doing really well. We did not expect it to do as well as it did. And I remember we won the special jury prize at Sundance, which was just mind blowing. We found out we got into South by like that same night, and someone asked Carrie, so like, where's the feature? And he was like, oh yes, we're working on it right now. And then he just basically told everyone that I was working on it already. I was like, okay, I guess I need to go write the feature then. And you know, it actually took a while for me to be convinced that I should do that, just because I didn't want to forcibly adapt the short into a feature if it didn't feel right. But I did have ideas, and we talked about it. And you know, the short film is for anyone who hasn't seen it, which is probably most people, is about a group of college students, and there are 2 Black men and 1 Latino guy, and they come home one night and find an unconscious white girl on their floor, and they don't know who she is or where she came from. And she's just unconscious in their house, and it does not look good. And so they're trying to decide, should we call 911 or not? And that was the short. And the feature, we needed to figure out how to sustain that level of, it's a dark comedy thriller. So it's like, you know, the comedy is something that we have to sustain throughout an entire movie, and also the tension. And so it's like, it's trying to work on 2 levels of like the dark comedy, social commentary, but also thriller, sort of like, this is the most horrifying night of these guys' lives. Like, you know, it's kind of like a comedy of errors. Watching the dominoes fall throughout the night is like the decisions that they made early on, like, you know, are paying off. And So yeah, I mean, that's a long way of answering the question. It was not intended to be a feature originally, but
But it happened.
it was a very pleasant experience to adapt it. And so glad to be back here
Yay.
once more.
Amazing, amazing. Let's go to Aubrey. Hi, Aubrey. So Aubrey, many of us, we know you as an amazing actress. But you're also a producer. So how did you get into producing? I mean, I come to Sundance pretty much every year, and I notice that you're often at Sundance too. And coming from the bigger studio stuff and producing independently, I'm sure you face a lot of challenges with that too, because making independent movies is not easy for anybody. Is it? Is it easier for you?
No. No, independent film. I mean, it's the hardest thing. I mean, you guys, you're producers, you guys, so you all know that. You know how challenging it is, especially, I mean, in the world that we're living in right now. Like this movie, Emily the Criminal, was shot over the summer during the pandemic, and all the COVID, stuff just adds on like a whole other layer to it. But no, it's the hardest. It's the hardest job. Like I think but I love it. Like I think it's my fourth film, and I think I love, like, I just love being with a movie from the very, very beginning to the very, very end, and being able to have an impact on just all sides of it, and being able to be really involved in like who's working on the film, and just how it's put together, because I love movies more than anything. I love acting, but I think just like the process of making an independent film, to me, is when I'm the most happy, even if it's so difficult. It's just a magical process for me. Like, it just feels like the movie is like this living, breathing thing that you have to like nurture and like, I don't know, and then just like push out into the world. I don't have kids, but it's like I guess
it's a child.
it's my
right?
child.
Yeah, I mean, when you're producing children, that's how I see it. We're producing children. I mean, they take a lot of money too, and they take nurturing, and they take pretty much everything.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So tell us about Emily the Criminal. We're excited to hear about Emily the Criminal.
Yeah, so Emily the Criminal is a script that I read a couple years ago. It was not even like a real thing at all. It was just like this other producer that I knew happened to read it, and he was like, you should read this script. You might like it. And I kind of read it just half interested, like, just, I don't know. And then I couldn't put it down. And I think I just fell in love with the character. The story is about a woman called Emily who is originally from New Jersey. She's moved to Los Angeles. She's kind of followed her like best friend, who she went to art school with, out to LA to try to make it as an artist. And she's having like a really hard time. The movie kind of opens up, and she's at a job interview, and Emily has a minor criminal record due to some things that happened in her past, but she cannot seem to break through the system, and she can't get hired. She's working as a cater waiter up top in the beginning of the film, and she's drowning in student loans and debt, and she just can't get a break. And the movie is and then she basically kind of gets tipped off from one of her coworkers about this credit card scam operation that is a real thing that goes on in Los Angeles and in a lot of cities, probably every city in the world. And she dabbles in this like petty crime, operation, and she kind of finds out very quickly that she has a knack for it, and so she kind of starts making some quick cash, and then it snowballs, and she kind of gets in over her head. And the person that's running this operation, played by Theo Rossi, is an immigrant from Lebanon, and it becomes kind of a love story with him, but but it's really, I guess, about kind of the American dream or lack of in these modern times. And for me, like Emily just represents like a generation of young people that are just getting just hammered by the system now, and like and just drowning in debt and just left with all of these loans and things she can't navigate. And I don't want to spoil the movie, but it's like she ends up somewhere that is not here. And so it kind of flips like the American dream on its head. And while she's not an immigrant, she's kind of surrounded by other characters that are, and it's kind of just shining a light on just how difficult it is to navigate the economy and just the job market and all these kinds of things right now. So that's kind of what it is without giving away too much. But, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then April, she joined us. Hi, April. How are you?
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. And April, you're gonna talk to us about your movie Work, which was part of the AFI Women's Directing Program, right?
Yeah. So,
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Work.
yes. Okay. So, Work is my 13-minute narrative short that's in Sundance this year. I wrote and directed it, and I made it with AFI's Directing Workshop for Women. It follows Gabriella, who is a queer freelance editor, and she's going through this like really rough breakup that she's not quite ready to move on from, and she's basically impulsively decides to go back to work this old job that she used to have as a lap dancer. And so the film kind of follows her through her day and night, and she at that job encounters an old friend and coworker. And ultimately it's about the journey of kind of like letting go of a past version of yourself and learning to move forward, and that complicated and messy journey. It's what else should I say?
That's wonderful. So we got to hear a little bit about your films, and the name of this panel is Our Road to the Sundance Film Festival, and we have a lot of filmmakers tuning in and stuff. So I'm kind of curious about your road to the Sundance Film Festival, and tell us about the challenges that were created in making this movie. We know that making movies are not easy. Tell us a little bit about when the inception of the film came to be, or if once you chose this film to produce, to get it made, right? But tell us a little bit about some of those challenges. And what's inspiring is that you made it happen. You got it in here, and it made it to the Sundance Film Festival, which it's not an easy festival to get into. And I often also hear that, especially for the directors that are doing the short films, that even the short film competition is even more so competitive, I hear sometimes, than the feature films. So, let's open it up to conversation and tell us about that.
Yeah, so for me, like, it's definitely been like a long journey to like, for me to be at this moment right now. Work is the 6th short form narrative work that I've directed, and up until a few years ago, my work has mostly only played at queer festivals because my work is often exploring those stories. So with this film, I knew that I wanted to apply to the AFI directing workshop because it was just like a big vision. There's a lot of actors and locations, and it's just like my other shorts had been, you know, like mostly just two people in like my house or something like very cheaply made. And so I was like, oh my God, this is like the most ambitious project I'm going to attempt, but it's like a story I'd been wanting to tell for a while. It's based on my personal experiences. And I'm like, I need, in order to tell this, like a lot of support. So I think AFI, you know, they helped me get some grants. And so it was the first time that I had received grants for any of my work. Nalip supported. There's a Inside Out is a queer film festival, and they have a post-production grant. The Will and Jada Foundation gave us a grant. And like the LGBT Center gave us like free parking for like our 40 cast and crew, like by Sunset Boulevard. So it was like a lot of things like that. And then just really finding and putting together you know, my cinematographer and my director and my editor, Steph, who's going to be on the post-production panel later today, but just like finding this rock star team that was gonna like help me do this in the middle of a pandemic. So yeah, all of that was very key.
And then you got it into Sundance. How did that make you feel?
It felt amazing because it's like, you know, like y'all are all saying, it's so hard to make independent film. Like so many people are just dedicating so much time, and it's just hard, you know. It's like 12-hour days, and it felt like, you know, when I was able to share that news with everyone, it's like, we did it. Like I'm like, thank you, like for everyone that like came through to help. And like, yeah.
Doménica and Constanza, tell us a little bit about some of those challenges you had to face to make this film.
Oof. We produced the film all through pandemic. So everybody worked remotely. We never worked together in a same room. Some people, one of our voices was in Italy, our animator was in the UK. We were shooting a commercial that was like all over the US. And so I think that one of the biggest challenges was just dealing with scheduling, because I think we were very lucky, and just, you know, unlike an AFIDW film, our film is so small. We're like very, very small crew. It's like our animator Cecilia Reeve, our editor co-writer Salvador Perez Garcia, our composer Jesse Nelson, color is Bogdanowicz, and 1000 Birds. Really, those are the people who came together to help us make We Are Here. So I think it was really just scheduling. And it was really funny because like when we got the call at Sundance, I mean, like April, you're saying, we've been trying to get into Sundance for a long time. We've been making a lot of projects. We submit every year, and we just hadn't made it. So when we got the call on a Sunday, we thought we were getting pranked, and we're like, wait, what? Like, what? And then we knew that a lot of other Indeed Rising Voices films had submitted. So we're like, wait, which film are you talking about? Like, really tell us. They're like, We Are Here got in. We're like, we couldn't believe it. But yeah, when we got the call, we're like, where's our hard drive? We need to find the hard drive and start with, you know, like getting a DCP together. And then we called Sal, and he's like, we don't have a hard drive. We made all of this film remotely, and everything's living on Dropbox. And we're like, oh, wow, like that's insane that is, you know, like it just kind of like, I don't know. I think it was just great to, you know, the challenge was not being in the same room, but I think thanks to Zoom and technology and the hearts and passion of our team just sort of made it work.
Yeah, and I think the concept itself worked well with this process, because we really were just recording voices and then creating the animation for it afterwards. So we, being producers, we also thought of a concept that sort of fit the resources that we had available in order to make it happen. And so with COVID, we knew like this is happening during COVID. It's not safe to go to any of their houses, and if we did, we would have to test everybody, and it would be so expensive, and then and so we just took sort of COVID like you know, as part of like how do we make this film and not have COVID be like a problem for us, and that's how we did it.
Wonderful. Okay, Gabriella, what were the challenges?
Well, there's stuff that burns. There's stuff that levitates. And there's stuff that does other stuff. There's some time travel. It was very ambitious. It was very ambitious. We technically had 3 days, but we sneaked in half another one. It was just crazy. Like, we had too many shots. And we lost our AD 3 days before we shot because she broke her knee. And then our other AD came in, and he was wonderful, but he was like, you need to move this to this. You know, we were sort of figuring it out. But what was wonderful was that I had also my producers that were on set with me were my friends that I've been working with for like 2 years, and they're both Brazilian and just like me, sort of like, let's go. They're Rafael Tomasetto and Elena Sardinia. And so they were like, Gabby, they were like keeping me sane, and they're really good at not worrying me. And then my DP and I, we were like, oh, like, she's amazing. Her name's Frankie Kroon, and she's from South Africa. And so she and I were almost like finishing each other's sentences by the end of the shoot. We were like almost dating, you know what I mean? And so it was crazy. Like, on paper, I think it looked impossible, but everyone was so committed to the project. And I think it's a testament to that of like, I think Aubrey, you were talking about being intentional with who you bring on and wanting to have those people there, because, you know, being there with beginning and end to the end, so that everybody would just like brought their A game, and we made it happen, and we got everything we needed. Because I was prepared to cut stuff in the day, but we got everything we needed. And also working with amazing actors like Shakira Barrera, who she's become my friend through this process, but she's a pro, you know. I didn't have to milk it to get, you know, it wasn't like 10,000 takes. We did 1, 2, 3, let's go, you know. And so it was what was challenging, I think, at first was like getting that confidence to be like, no, we can do this, and then finishing through. And I just, it felt like going to grad school, to be honest. I didn't go to film school, so it felt like literally being put through AFI. Like Doménica and Constanza basically organized this program. Like, it felt like you were graduating from a school and delivering in like 2 seconds. Yeah, it was crazy. But
And how about that moment that you received the call that your movie was at the Sundance? Did you want it to premiere here?
Yes, I mean, Sundance has been my dream too. I've been a fellow in a couple of their like labs and stuff, so I felt like, okay, now is the time. Like, now I feel like I have something I feel proud of, because I was like, I don't want to embarrass myself and send whatever, you know. So I sent that. I wasn't expecting anything. I paid fair and square. I sent it in the summer, and I was like, I'm not gonna think about this. And I, of course, like the day I come home from like Joshua Tree, just like looking like a mess, like sand is pouring out of my bag, I get this like call, and I thought it was a robocall, and then it was Ash from Sundance being like, you got in, and I'm like, and then I went to Dominican Constanza's to drink champagne.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Literally, the phone rang for "We are here," and then at the same time, Gabby and Rafa were FaceTiming us, and we're like, "What's happening? Is
We're like,
everything
it's
okay?"
probably gonna be Sundance.
And
like,
so,
we kind of
yeah.
had a feeling.
And then we picked up, and they're like, "We got into Sundance," and we're like, "Oh my gosh, we did too!" And they're like, "Oh my gosh!"
So for you girls, it was like a double yay.
Yeah.
Like all these years of not having movies at Sundance, and now it's like not 1 but 2, in a sense, right?
And it rains, it pours. Yeah.
That's like exciting. That's super exciting. Katie, how about yourself? What were some of the challenges, and then, you know, when you found out that you got it in the feature length version at Sundance?
Yeah, I mean, for challenges, I feel like one of the biggest challenges is, of course, just getting your movie made, like, period. For a feature film, it's like, you know, it has to be like the stars align in a lot of ways. And, you know, for me, getting the short made, I had a kind of philosophy of we didn't have very much money. We did it through Film Independence Project Involved. They gave us grant money, which was amazing, but like we didn't raise that much money. And so because of that, and I anticipated, I actually had gone to film school and I know how much people had spent on movies, and I was like, I don't have that much money. So we're going to keep this as simple as possible. So for the short, it kind of all started with the short concept, we're adapting the short into a feature. So the short kind of, the simplicity of the short and the philosophy of writing the short, I was like, I want to have as few characters as possible, which was essentially like 3 with like kind of a bonus 1 character, an unconscious person. So 3 characters, and then 1 location was the short, and that made it just like easy to make for a low price, but focusing on the performances. And I mean, I know that's a very practical thing to have to think about, but like we really wanted to be able to focus on the tone and focus on the performances, and that kind of carried over to the feature film. I was worried because we had gotten interest after we won like some prizes at festivals. But I wanted to control the project with the director. Like we wanted to make sure that it didn't just get taken kind of away from us and made, we didn't want to just make money off of it. We wanted to make the movie and make it the way we wanted to. And so that's like a whole challenge in itself. And so I wrote the first draft of the script. I wrote it on spec, and I wrote it with the idea that I was going to make it as simple as possible, to the point where if we had to raise the money ourselves and like I needed to, I don't know, just take out a bunch of debt, and like we could just make the movie if we needed to on our own. And so the first draft of the script was like shoestring budget, like the simplest version possible. And I mean, we were fortunate enough that we were able to find a production company that was supportive. We went through, it was tough. Like the concept of the film, is like these guys find an unconscious white girl, and then they're trying to decide if they should call 911. And they, in the feature version, spoiler, I guess this is the beginning of the movie, but they decide they're gonna just try to take a short drive, put her in the car and just drive her to the hospital. And it's gonna take 10 minutes, it's gonna be okay, like nothing will go wrong. And it doesn't all go as planned. It was, keeping it simple actually paid off really well, because it made the script really appealing to producers and studios and like places that had money. They were like, we ended up landing at Amazon, in part because Temple Hill and Amazon were the only people that we had met with that fully understood the tone, fully understood the like social commentary, and then also were completely supportive. We had run into a lot of problems with people being like, we love the party stuff, like it's a teen party movie, like super bad or something, lean into that, can you take out the politics? And we were like, no. So we were fortunate to find somewhere that, places that were really supportive of that. And Amazon, I mean, I was like, you can make this movie a little bit bigger. Like we could give you a little bit more money, so we could like make it a little bit more. I was like, okay, cool. So, I think that was a very fortunate thing for us, was because we had made it so cheap, like and appealing, we were able to attract people. So,
Okay.
and then getting into Sundance was just, I mean, a plus. Like everybody else, it's like I feel like that feeling doesn't go away when you're making a feature version too. You're just like, wow, this is happening. It's kind of surreal, like to be back with the feature. So it's just amazing.
Aubrey, so the challenges, but also as a producer, how do you end up selecting the films that you want to make?
Well, I'll do that backwards. Like, really, it's just really the script, honestly. Like, the scripts that I like, Ingrid Goes West and Black Bear and this movie, like, those scripts were just like fire. Like, I read them and just like, it's like I saw the whole thing in my head. Like, most movies, I feel, probably every movie, it's like the script is one thing, but then the movie is something else. It's like that's what you start with, and you do your best to produce that thing. But life happens, and things change, and locations change, and so the movie, like my thing about movies is like you have to let them evolve. So, but it always starts with the script for me and the character. So like if I love the script and I love the story and I love the character, like I'm all in. And I think I tend to gravitate towards characters that are really complicated or have a lot of layers, and I'm always trying to look for something different, for myself, just to kind of like challenge myself. But yeah, like challenge, like yeah, like what Katie was saying. It's like the challenges of making a film are like, first of all, money. Second of all, time. It's like money and time. So every movie this movie took years to get financing. And when I read it, I was like, this movie needs to cost like X amount of money, or it's gonna not happen. It's not gonna work out. And we couldn't find that amount of money, so we made it for like a much smaller budget. And we just changed the approach and we made it work. So the challenge was really like, first of all, even getting it off the ground. This Emily the Criminal has around 133 locations, which is like insane.
Oh, wow.
For an independent film.
133?
Yes. So it has more locations than there are scenes, which is unheard of. Which
amazing.
Pages, scenes. I don't know. Okay, the director would be able to explain, but there's so many locations that it's like I don't even know how we pulled it off. Like we had no time, and like you guys were saying, like.
And how long did it take you to film it?
20 days.
Oh wow, with 133 locations. Yes.
Yes.
That's indie right there.
Yeah. So the challenges were really about time. It's like we shot in some the movie is really almost like LA, like the ugly side of LA, like the underbelly of LA, like downtown LA, like the not pretty parts of LA, like that's a character in the movie. So, and we were shooting in all the real locations. So we were shooting in some real pretty like, just rough kind of like locations, like just in terms of like, even just like where we're parking our cars. Like, I mean, we have like chase scenes, and we just did everything like really down and dirty style. So it was just like every day was a challenge. And I kept joking when we were making the movie that it felt like a video game. Like every day was like another level. Like every day was like, okay, God, like now we're shooting in this like underground parking garage. Like we're literally running around. Like I don't even know where the AD is. Like it was just
so let me ask you a question, because you're producing, which is a big job to be a producer and keep kind of like everyone in the film together, but you're also acting at the same time, and you're the lead actor.
Yeah.
What is more challenging there? Is it more challenging to produce, to act, to do both at the same time? How are you able to manage that, especially if you're dealing with challenges of production and then trying to be in the moment as an actor?
Yeah, no, it's totally it's totally insane. I don't even know why I like think I can do that. It's all about the people it's all about the people you are working with. Like if I wasn't working with people that had my back, where once the cameras are rolling, I could tune out, whatever drama's going on. Like I would not survive. It's all a challenge, but I like a challenge. Like I don't, but I'm psychotic when I'm working. Like I don't stop. Like I'll, like shoot whatever, 12 hours, whatever. I'm in every scene. And then like we wrap, and then it's like huddling up with the, with the director and the other producers and the AD, and trying to figure out all the problems. It's just problem solving. And I just want to mention this really quick because I'm very proud of it. And this is like the Latino filmmakers like thing. But like,
oh yeah,
this movie, I was like, I got more Puerto Ricans like behind the camera than I ever have in the movie. I had this like Puerto Rican crew around me, and it was like family. Like my hairstylist, Jimmy Severa, was Puerto Rican. The AD, Jorge Rivera, was Puerto Rican. One of the associate producers was Puerto Rican. Like I had all these like I don't know, like I just think it's all about the people that you work with, and like it's always going to be hard. Like independent films are always going to be hard, but if you can like get your people, like it just, the challenges become fun even though it's crazy. But so that, to me, like that was like, I think the way I survived this shoot is just the people that I had around
That's
me.
very important. Yeah,
Yeah.
the people. I love that you mentioned that, Aubrey, because yes, we're all Latinas. We're all from different places. I noticed we have Mexico and we have the whole Caribbean here because Aubrey's Puerto Rican. We have La República Dominicana, Gabriella. I'm Cuban. And then Katie, Doménica, April, Mexican, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Born
Mexican.
and raised
So,
in San Antonio.
one thing that I want to know from all of you ladies, okay, first and foremost, these are lady filmmakers, we're Latinas, we're filmmakers. It's a very tough entertainment industry. You rarely see opportunities for women, especially Latinas in the entertainment industry in Hollywood, right? And we're telling stories that all of your films somehow, what I want to know is how your own identity as a Latina influenced the creation of these movies that you created that are playing right now. So anyone could jump in and tell me how you feel about that, what your influence as a Latina for your own film was.
I mean, my film was, I would say 70% in Spanish. And it was important to me to talk about those sort of barriers of language and how you can sort of live in both contexts at the same time. Like I feel almost like a foreigner back home now that I've been here for like 8 years, but here I'm also kind of like a foreigner. So I think without like playing like a sad violin, I just really wanted to talk about that experience of being, of holding all these cultures at the same time and feeling proud of that, and also very proud that I have an all Latina cast. And they're like also, for me it was important to me in terms of being Dominican. First, everything I do is a little Dominican, even if it's not. But is that I had like racial diversity in my film that I think represents the island that I grew up in, and it's like so beautiful to see. So I'm really, really proud of that, and I hope to continue to show that in all the Dominicanness that I show in my films.
KD.
Yeah, so I'm Mexican American. I'm from Los Angeles, and I grew up as one of the paler people in my family. I mean, especially since I haven't gone outside now for like, I don't know how many years it's been. We've been stuck here. But growing up, I started noticing this phenomenon where especially my dad and other men in my big Latino family had to do this strange like calculus every time we went anywhere, considering how they're being perceived. Like this thing of like, do I seem like a threat right now? What could I do to not seem like a threat? Like if I dress this way, if I like walk this way. But like even if you're twisting yourself into pretzels, you can still like to try to, to make sure that you're being perceived okay. Like you can't control that. You can still get pulled over by the police and searched for no reason because like you match the description of a suspect. Like that's usually the excuse. And that definitely factored in a lot into the movie. Just, my growing up in a place where, the concept of a culture of fear of the police is very much it's very obviously an issue in this country with the African American community, but in Los Angeles, it's also very much a Latino issue, and I wanted to make sure that that was in the movie as well, and that's something that I've been working on other projects as well. That I feel like ideas of justice and colorism and factor into my work a lot, especially I've been working on more things that are more directly focused on the Latino community. I have a short now called Please Hold that's currently shortlisted for the Oscars. That's
Yay. And you directed
thanks.
it. This is your
Yeah, I
directorial
directed.
debut.
Yeah, I directed, and it's also like a Kafka-esque dark comedy thriller. I guess that's my genre. I don't know. But yeah, it's like that one talks a bit about the way that automation in the justice system, it's like a sci-fi short, but like it's, you know, it talks about like facial recognition software and the problems that it brings for like our people who are like Latino or darker skinned are going to, it's horrible at recognizing people. Like, so, you know, it's kind of a case of, it's about a guy who gets arrested by mistake and gets thrown into an automated justice system. And so it's like an opportunity to explore these issues, and specifically through the lens of a Latino character. And so anyway, it's something that has like colored all the things that I've done. And it's just, you know, it's part of who I am and how I was raised, even, you know, even though a lot of people don't necessarily see it when they meet me. It's just, you know, it's part of who we are.
Okay, yeah. We're going to continue here with Doménica and Constanza Castro. Tell us about your identity with this film.
Yeah, we're so like proud of our origin. We love being Mexican, and we're also so proud to be here. And so I think we brought all of ourselves into this film, and like we had never really heard our voice, I think, as strongly through a piece that we've worked on. And you know, for us, the being Latinas and then living here, I mean, of course, you can't get away from the immigrant story. And sometimes we sit down and we talk about like why did we choose to make this one the film that like that we, you know, direct for the first time. And I think it's because in so many ways it's the story that like sort of opens up who we are and sort of how we can explore things further, and hopefully, you know, travel into narratives that don't necessarily center on immigration. But I think inherently these the sentiment of being othered or having to adapt yourself, like adaptation, is probably going to, you know, these themes are probably going to resonate for a long time in the stories that we tell, because it's how, like, sort of what you were saying, Katie, like, you know, the sort of chameleon kind of thing. I mean, I think being an immigrant is kind of a superpower in so many ways, and we've started to really embrace that narrative as such, and hopefully we can help empower younger generations of immigrants, because we didn't have this material growing up to sort of make sense of our experiences. And so I think with this film, we really brought, you know, being a Latino in this country, or just, you know, it's being an immigrant in this country, but we brought what we know.
Yeah, and unintentionally, all of the voices are from the Latina community. And that wasn't like a choice that we made consciously. We were just like, who are the people that we know whose stories inspire us? And we just looked around, and those were the stories that we like chose to highlight. But I don't think that was like choosing Latina voices wasn't like a conscious choice that we set out to make. And I think it just comes to your own experience sometimes just palpitates through these decisions that you might not know why you're choosing. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Aubrey?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like my identity as a Puerto Rican, I'm half Puerto Rican, but like my grandparents, you know, fought so hard to have a life here and to start a life here, coming from Puerto Rico, coming from nothing. And my parents kind of carried that spirit, you know, like they made everything out of nothing. And I think that is like a real kind of theme for a lot of, you know, Latinos, immigrants. Like that's like an unconscious, I think, like theme of my life. Like just kind of keeping that spirit alive and like understanding you know, just how hard my family has worked to have us be, you know, in the position that we're in now and that I'm in. Like I carry that with me everywhere I go. So and I don't take anything for granted. So like I think a lot of, you know, my identity as a Puerto Rican is really wrapped up in that kind of feeling of just like yeah, just like having that perspective and not, and I think like, you know, it's easier for me to navigate, you know, some of the stuff here, you know, kind of like Katie was saying, is like I don't, you know, a lot of people don't even realize I'm Puerto Rican. I don't. People have like a, you know, false notion of what that looks like, and it's just, yeah. So I think like my experience is always kind of this like weird tug of war with like my own identities and like how I fit in, you know. And I think my whole life it's been kind of like that. My mom is Irish, and you know she comes from an Irish immigrant family as well. But like that's a very different culture. But like I think I grew up always kind of like being like who am I? Where do I fit in? And I think that's just like a really common theme for a lot of the Latino community, I would say. So in every project I do, whether I'm playing a character that's like literally dealing with, you know, being Latina or whatever, like that means like I always it always informs what I'm doing. And I think like even on Parks and Recreation, which was so long ago, like I made a point to be like, maybe I'm half, you know, half Puerto Rican, or maybe I'm half Cuban, or maybe, you know, something, just to like kind of, I don't know, like just put different kinds of people on screen. Because I think like in my experience, like, and I do think it's like we're changing and we're having more characters that represent like all kinds of people. I think for a long time historically, there's just been such a stereotype about Latino characters, and there's such an extreme there. So like for me, it's like interesting to kind of portray different characters that have that identity, that aren't like typical what people normally think, so that it normalizes you know, those kinds of characters for young people. And like that's something that I think I'm always conscious of whenever I'm doing projects, whether like I'm doing a story about it or not, I guess.
Well, we appreciate having you there, and you know, making us proud, and you know, and representing our community in such a positive way. So thank you. And April?
Yeah. So I grew up in a mixed family too. My mom's Mexican American and my dad is white. That's why my last name is not Spanish. But yeah, I grew up in San Antonio, and I really feel like I had my coming into myself and coming of age experiences a lot in New York City, which is where in my head the script was based, even though I had to shoot it in LA for the program. So that's why it's based in LA. But for me, it was really important to, you know, my team was largely made up of queer women of color. And I feel like that's, you know, like who I want on my set, in front of the camera and behind the camera. And you know, my film was just like largely based on my own experiences, and the interweaving of like, yeah, the different layers of that. And I don't know what else to say.
That's okay. That's okay.
Like yeah, I don't know. I think like for me, when I'm writing, like I just want to try to like first put this like emotional truth on screen, and then just like let all the other identities like inform that. But like, yeah, and then hopefully like other people can relate to it. And then yeah, just being intentional about like who you work with and who you cast. And yeah.
Well, I want to congratulate all of you for having wonderful films at this year's Sundance Film Festival. You girls truly did an amazing job. I'm very proud of all of you. I want to go really quickly around the room with like a few words. We have a thing this year that we're saying filmmakers are change makers. That's what we believe, because through our films, we're able to educate so many people about not only about our identities and our communities, but about so many different stories, right? I want to go around the room really quickly, and I want you to share words of wisdom with filmmakers, some words of wisdom, and like about inspiring them to continue to tell their stories and not to give up. All right, Aubrey.
Surround yourself with people that inspire you and people that you love working with. I think, like, for me, it's all about collaboration. You can't do it alone. And I think find your people and stick together, and don't give up. Keep making things. Even if it's not what you thought, it's not perfect, what you wanted, just make something, because you never know what will come out of what. And to me, like, that's always the advice I give to like filmmakers and young actors. Like, just say yes, keep your heart open, because you never know what will lead to what.
Thank you. Doménica and Constanza.
Totally agree with Aubrey. Collaboration is key, and finding your people that you trust. I think I'm gonna share to always lead with kindness, and to, I heard once an editor at a talk say that she heard Soderbergh say that there might be a chain of command, but there's never a chain of respect. And I think that really stuck. And I think that, if we should take the chain of command out, I think that respect is really what needs to stay with you. And I think that creates a very good room for like trust and collaboration, and for people to be able to express their own voice. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I would say that I never knew how the path was gonna play out for me, but and I didn't know how I was gonna do it, but I knew that I could do it. So I just think it's important to believe in yourself, and believe in in what you want to create. And almost every film is always going to be about, you don't know how you're going to make it, but you can make it. And so just, I think keeping that spirit is important.
KD.
I totally agree with everything everyone said so far, but I guess I'll give very practical advice. If you are a new filmmaker, make your first short films extremely simple, because things are going to get complicated anyway. So start out with a really simple idea, have as few characters and locations as possible, because you want to be able to expand if you need to, but it's really hard to cut things when you need to. So I mean, just starting simple puts you in a position where you can really focus on the things that matter in your work. And I think that short films are a very underappreciated art form. It's so hard to do a really good one. And then, think of your short as well as a standalone concept. If it's a proof of concept, people can often tell. So try to make sure it works on its own.
Thank you. April?
Yeah, I think maybe mine will be I remember this like from a book or something, but like when you're first writing a script, or you want to tell a story, like write like you're not going to show anyone. Like write from here, and don't be scared, and don't get in your head about like, oh, what is this person going to think, or what is, like, I think if you get too caught up in how people are going to perceive your work before you start, like you're just like adding extra difficulty for yourself. And yeah, just try to get to like the emotional truth and core of like your experience and what it is you're trying to say, and then everything else will follow.
And Gabriella.
I think definitely follow your intuition above all things, because make sure that you're ready to take feedback, and don't react, shut up when people are giving you notes, and then don't change your script right away because of them. Just like let them breathe, because you're gonna have an emotional reaction to them first before you can actually like process them, and then you can take it with a grain of salt or whatever. And then also practical advice for directors starting out: if you have an ambitious script and for the first day that you're shooting, don't schedule the easiest stuff, so that it sort of like sets the tone, so that you can like get into your confidence shoes and then go forward. And then think about post in pre-production. Don't leave it to the end, especially sound and music, because I think that can make or break a film.
Awesome, awesome. Check out their films at Sundance, HUELLA, Work, Emergency, We Are Here. Emily the Criminal premieres today. So check it out, guys. Support them, and we'll keep supporting them through Latino Filmmakers Network. Anything you ladies need, just reach out, to keep spreading the word. And we wish you continued success. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for always having had a presence at Sundance. I've been in your lounges many, many times when there was like really nothing happening for Latinos.
I appreciate you, Doménica. I know. You've been there from the beginning, from the first. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you all. I wish you the best, Aubrey, with your premiere today.
Thank you. I'm gonna run because I gotta go start doing interviews for it. It's in 2 hours, but congratulations, everybody. I'm excited to check out your stuff.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Maylen.
Thank
You
you.
as
Thank you,
well.
Maylen. Appreciate it.